Fashion has always been more than just clothing. It's identity, culture, and an expression of status. But behind the glitz and glamour of runways, designer labels, and celebrity endorsements, there exists a story that most consumers will never see, a story about perception, profit, and the illusion of value. This is the story of the 100 billion fashion illusion that consumers still believe. And once you understand it, it will change the way you see every label, every price tag, and every must-have trend. At first glance, the fashion industry appears straightforward. Brands design, produce, market, and sell clothes. Consumers pay for the product, and the company makes a profit. But as anyone who has looked closely knows, this is only the surface. Behind the labels and luxury boutiques, the industry is engineered to create perceived value far beyond the cost of production. Materials, craftsmanship, and exclusivity are certainly factors, but the real profit often comes from narrative branding and psychological influence. The $1 billion illusion is rooted in this precise mechanism, convincing consumers that clothing is not just functional, but aspirational, transformative, and status-defining. Consider how brands market themselves. The average consumer sees a designer label and thinks, this is expensive because it's high quality. In some cases, that's true. But increasingly, what you are paying for is the story, not the product. That story is meticulously curated. It's about exclusivity, heritage, celebrity endorsement, and cultural relevance. And when executed correctly, the story transforms a 50 shirt into a 500 status symbol and makes consumers willingly pay the difference. Take, for example, the phenomenon of limited drops and exclusive collections. Streetwear and high fashion have mastered this tactic. Brands create scarcity, hype the release, and watch as consumers scramble to purchase items at inflated prices. The $1 billion illusion is embedded here. The market perceives value because everyone else perceives value. This is a classic case of herd psychology, amplified by social media. Consumers are not just buying clothes, they're buying approval, relevance, and the feeling of being part of an exclusive club. And let's be honest, this illusion works extraordinarily well. Every year, the fashion industry generates billions in profit, and luxury brands continue to report record-breaking sales. Yet, if you look at the numbers behind the scenes, the actual production costs of these items often represent a tiny fraction of the final retail price. Some reports suggest that in high-end fashion, production accounts for as little as 20–30% of the retail price. The rest, marketing, distribution, and the intangible luxury premium that convinces consumers they are buying not just a product, but a piece of culture. Now, pause for a moment and think about what that means. You could pay hundreds, or even thousands, for an item that costs the company a fraction of that amount to make. And yet, the value you perceive is real. Your sense of status, identity, and taste is influenced by carefully crafted marketing, celebrity endorsements, and social validation. This is the essence of the $1 billion fashion illusion. Value is constructed, not inherent. Let's explore some key strategies that make this illusion so powerful. Storytelling and heritage. Luxury brands are experts at weaving narratives. They tell stories about craftsmanship, legacy, and artistry. Consumers aren't just buying a handbag, they're buying a piece of a centuries-old tradition, even when the reality is that much of the production is outsourced, automated, or globally manufactured. The story convinces consumers they are part of something exclusive and timeless. Scarcity and limited editions. The fewer the items available, the higher the perceived value. Limited edition releases, capsule collections, and collaborations generate urgency. Consumers are driven not only by desire but also by fear, the fear of missing out on the status or recognition that comes with owning the item. This scarcity drives secondary markets, where prices often multiply, reinforcing the perception of value. Celebrity endorsements and influencer culture. When a celebrity wears a particular brand, consumers are willing to pay a premium to emulate them. Social media amplifies this effect. Influencers showcase fashion as a lifestyle, reinforcing the narrative that a high price equals high status. The $1 billion illusion thrives because perception becomes reality. If everyone believes a brand is worth the hype, it is, at least in the market's eyes. Psychological pricing. Price tags are more than numbers, they are signals. Brands know that certain price points communicate exclusivity and quality. A 500 handbag feels more luxurious than a 200 handbag, even if the materials and production costs are nearly identical. This pricing strategy plays directly into consumer psychology, creating the illusion that more expensive always means better. Brand symbolism, logos, monograms, and signature patterns serve as status markers. Wearing a recognizable brand communicates wealth, taste, and social positioning. The product itself could be ordinary, but the symbolic value elevates it far above its practical utility. The consumer is buying social currency as much as they are buying fabric. It's not just luxury fashion that relies on this illusion. Mass market brands have learned to mimic these strategies. Collaborations with celebrities, limited edition releases, and designer-inspired collections create the same sense of exclusivity at a lower price point, proving that the illusion is not just for the ultra-wealthy, it's a universal tool for creating perceived value. Here's an interesting angle: the $1 billion fashion illusion is sustained by the secondary market. Resale platforms, auctions, and private sales amplify scarcity and hype, often inflating prices beyond the original retail cost. Consumers see items selling for multiples of their original price and assume inherent value. But in reality, the market is fueled by perception, speculation, and social proof. People pay premium prices not because of necessity, but because they believe everyone else will value it too. And this is where the story becomes almost philosophical. Fashion, in this sense, becomes a mirror reflecting human behavior, desire, and status signaling. People are willing to pay extraordinary sums for something that serves social and psychological purposes, rather than purely functional ones. The $1 billion valuation in this industry is less about fabric and stitching, and more about human perception, a collective agreement on what is valuable and desirable. Think about it. Billions of dollars move through the fashion industry every year, not because of the intrinsic worth of the clothing, but because of the illusion of value. Consumers participate willingly, often feeling savvy and informed, when in fact they are navigating a carefully constructed ecosystem designed to manipulate desire. This is not deception in the illegal sense. It's marketing mastery, human psychology, and social engineering at scale. And let's be clear, consumers are not entirely passive in this process. They participate actively, share images online, discuss brands, and validate each other's choices. Social media acts as an amplifier for the illusion. The more likes, comments, and shares a brand receives, the more legitimacy it gains. This feedback loop creates a self-reinforcing system where perception fuels reality, and reality fuels perception. Now, let's talk about the media. Fashion media, from magazines to Instagram accounts, plays a pivotal role in sustaining this illusion. Photographs, editorials, and influencer posts create desire and social proof. They craft narratives that elevate products from functional clothing to aspirational artifacts. Consumers are constantly reminded, consciously or subconsciously, that owning a particular item is not just about clothing, it's about being part of a story bigger than yourself. And this is where the $1 billion figure becomes almost symbolic. It's not simply the sum of product sales, it's the aggregate value of perception, hype, status signaling, and social validation. Every dollar spent reinforces the illusion, every like and share magnifies it, and every media mention legitimizes it. The number becomes almost irrelevant in material terms. What matters is the cultural power the illusion exerts. So why does this matter to you, the consumer? Because understanding the illusion gives you power. Once you recognize that much of the value in fashion is socially constructed, you can make more informed choices about what you buy, why you buy it, and how much you're willing to pay. You begin to see fashion not just as clothing, but as a complex interplay of economics, psychology, and culture. And here's a final powerful insight: the $1 billion fashion illusion is not likely to disappear. Luxury brands will continue to create scarcity, craft narratives, and leverage social influence to maintain perceived value. Consumers will continue to participate, often enthusiastically, because the illusion taps into fundamental human desires, status, belonging, and aspiration. What changes is awareness. The more we understand the mechanics behind the illusion, the better equipped we are to navigate it consciously, rather than being swept along by it. So next time you see a limited edition release, a designer label, or a social media post showcasing the latest fashion must-have, remember this. The story is not really about clothing. It's about perception, influence, and the subtle ways wealth and status are communicated in modern society. The 1,000 billion fashion illusion continues to operate because it appeals to desire, imagination, and identity, and most consumers, knowingly or not, still believe it.